Welcome to the Spiritual Underground Podcast. This is Dan coming to you from the wood shop at DTM Enterprises, my little wood shop in the backyard. So speaking of that, we'll get some of those commercials out of the way. You will be hearing some sponsorship by Anchor, the host here on these podcasts from this point forward. Go to dtmww.net. That's my wood shop and handyman services. If you're here local, if you need something done, I can help you with that. Anywhere in the Louisville metro area. And the woodworking stuff, I can do that, and a lot of those pieces can be shipped. And if something you need that direction, let me know. Contact me pages there. Go to spiritualunderground.org for show notes around the podcast. Contact me page there. You can see pictures of the guests when they, as we were just talking a minute ago. One of the things we do at the podcast is protect people's anonymity at the level they need to. So guests that come here. I would even offer a pseudonym if a guy didn't want to tell his name but wanted to come in and share his story. So some people don't want their pictures on there, and that is fine with me, but those who do, you can see the pictures. I think it's important for me. It always has been for me to put a face with the name. So go there. 12-Step Spiritual Recovery is a book by James Christopher Cone. It's available on Amazon. It is the principles by which these guys and most of the people that are on this podcast have come to this state of mind, this state of being that we speak of here, the juice in our lives. It's Amazon, James Christopher Cone, 12-Step Spiritual Recovery. And finally, the music around the podcast is by Darren Frank. So want to make sure we give him musical credit. I have a couple guests today, so we're going to do a double header, and it feels funny speaking to that, but I'm going to speak to that anyway because it's just what we're doing sitting here. Marshall is here to talk today first, and Mark, his sponsor, is here also. He's going to share his story today, so we're going to get both of those. And I'm going to just we also have another guest. Nick is in the studio, just coming and listening and partaking and being part of this thing. I always like to have. I have a little bit of a vision of maybe half of the wood shop being like seats over there, where it's a studio audience. Maybe that'll be the case at next Sunday's guest. So I always like to put a little story on how we meet this path and how that happens, and I don't know if I have this exactly correct, but Mark and Marshall have a friend who had been visiting the Spiritual Underground at some level and had mentioned it to those guys, and they came up and came to come join us on a Tuesday night at some point. I believe I'm telling this story right, or at least Mark did, or some. I don't know if it's both, but anyway. And I keep an eye on new people that come in, but sometimes, man, we just have so many new people that it's hard to keep a thumbprint on everybody. And I got an email from a guy who took a lot of time to a heartfelt email and certainly some energy put towards writing it that put a lot of love on the podcast, and it really touched me. And I found out that was I saw that it was from Mark, and for whatever reason, we were chatting back and forth, and ended up, extending a invitation to him to come to the retreat this past spring. Mark and Marshall both came. Since then, they, over that evolution, not since then, during this whole little span of time, they've come to be valuable members, loved members of the Spiritual Underground group. So that is cool. I just love to watch people come in, and Marshall's story, watched him, you had a good foundation when I met you. You could see that, but you see this continued brightness, and the light glows brighter day by day. And like right now, it was Monday, a week ago tomorrow, that Marshall celebrated 1 year of sobriety, man. And that is too freaking cool, man. Too cool. Yeah. Yeah, really clap on that, no doubt. So it's important sometimes when I see that, and I just get drawn. I follow this thing from a higher power tells me what to do. Most of these ideas are not mine. And so I was like, yeah, I like it when guys are new. And some of my first podcasts are relatively young in recovery sponsees of mine that one thing was that I could exert a little persuasion over them coming and telling their story, and I like that. Everybody's on this path in a different spot and has something to offer, and you're on fire, so that's like a really cool. That 1 year sobriety is just a cool place to be, man. And I'll tell you, just in the same realm, the people who go back out, like after getting a year, when they come back, their next first year generally won't have that glow of that first year. Generally, that's a little public recovery announcement. I'm doing them public quit announcements on here now. Of be careful. Like it falls back to that. It's a hell of a lot easier to stay sober than it is to get sober. So welcome to the show, Marshall. I'm juiced to have you here today. I know you're a little bit nervous.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, Marshall's brought a lot of crystals to join my little crowd of crystals on the table, so that we've got like the energy will not be to blame today. If anything is on the well, it's not going to be. I'm not even going to put that air out there. The energy should be fantastic because we've got a lot of energy creating crystals on the table. So what do you think?
I'm very excited to be here. I've been daydreaming about this since the first time I heard your podcast, or heard about your podcast. And yeah, you were right about our friend that I was in some meetings earlier, and our friend, mutual friend, I'd been telling a lot of people about podcasts in general. And saying that these are helping me a lot through work and stuff like that, just speaker meetings and stuff like that.
Yeah, speaker meetings are really important to me. Still are, actually, but were really important to me early on.
I would listen to them all day through work, and just put it on and just let it go. And 8 hours later, it'd be time to go home. So I was telling all these people how good these speaker meetings were, or these tapes, or not tapes, but podcasts, and it was almost as good as like comedians. You get the humor out of these people. But I was like, I just couldn't believe it. So I was like, the time flew by, and you got a really good story, a good lesson. And so I was spreading that message to the other people that hadn't heard a podcast and hadn't heard of this way of learning about things. So I was telling everybody, and then our mutual friend said, "Hey, I got one that you need to listen to." And he told me about this podcast. So that's how I first heard about it. And then he said, they got a meeting up there. And he said, you really got to go to the Spiritual Underground. I was like, really? Okay. And that's what started that. The steps that got me right here where I'm sitting right now.
Yeah, super cool, man. So I was close, but not exactly on par. But I'm glad you clarified that. It's neat how we get brought places. I don't think anything, again, we don't believe in accidents or coincidences around here anymore. And there's a reason why that happened. And, yeah, man, it's if I was to say a minute ago, and this will embarrass him a little bit, but like if I have a super fan on the podcast, it's Marshall. He probably knows more about the podcast and the different people that are on it and what's been said. And, he will remind me of things that's been on the podcast that I forget that were on the podcast. So thank you for that, because that juices me up too, man. That's again, it's just an honor to be able to do this and to have people getting something out of it, because I wouldn't do it if I didn't think people were getting stuff out of it. So when you give me that feedback, man, that gives me that higher power attaboy that knows me, that tells me to keep doing it, right? Yeah. To keep it up, keep doing it. So what's your sobriety date?
8/12/2018.
Yeah, I knew that too. Most of the time people sit here, I know sobriety dates. That's another one of them. I'm a numbers guy, a name guy, and a face guy. I can remember people's names, sobriety dates, and now the sobriety dates are a little trickier, but names and faces. So cool. So you just last Monday crossed over 1 year of recovery.
Yes.
Is that your first try?
Well, no, not really. I mean, I've been to rehab.
First try, and okay, go ahead.
Rehab a couple different times, but
Did you come out and try 12-step stuff after that?
Not really. I mean, not even what you would call a half measure.
Yeah.
Before,
but you did come. You did experience some of it, or at least
a little bit. Yeah. I mean, if you go to any rehab, they're going to be
coaching that.
Yes.
Yeah. Some people just flatly don't. They go to rehab and they walk out the door and they're like, okay, like like went and got your appendix removed, or when you come outside of the hospital, you leave the hospital, you go home, and
yeah, that was kind of my first trip to rehab was kind of like that. I don't have the answers yet of why I did what I did and what I thought.
Yeah. There's no answers to most of those kind of things. My point is that I'm a product to keep coming back. So there's some certain things that and my son has a teachers or school. My kids have this thing in school, and they call them bell ringers, and it means something completely different for their school. But to me, the bell ringers are when these things that we have in common, these certain things that you hear in here, we all have this terminally unique bullshit going on, right? I've been speaking to that a little bit about how we stand over there, and I'm different than y'all. You know, I want to come sit on the bench with the Cubs and wear my Phillies uniform, you know, because I want to make sure you all know that I ain't like you all. Well, that is not getting people well for sure. But the flip side of that is I hear these commonality things between all of us. And, you know, I'm a product to keep coming back. And whether if it, you know, how many times or how long, I feel fortunate. I only bounced around for 4 years before my current sobriety date. So that seems like a long time in a way. I know some people that don't never make it. Matter of fact, we lost a guy this week that has been coming around longer than I've been around. And he didn't make it. So that's the other side of this story about keep coming back. Sometimes you don't.
It's serious. It's deathly serious.
So give me a little bit, let's start this talk out, and I always like to go back to the beginning, like a little bit like where you were born, where you were raised, how your family system was, that kind of thing, and we'll just move down the path.
I was born in Elizabethtown, Kentucky. I grew up around there, a little farther south, actually. Most of my time was around Hodgenville. Went to LaRue County High School, but been in Kentucky all my life. But I have three. I had three. I'm the youngest of four. Mom and Dad had my oldest sister, Debbie. And 2 years later, they had Alvin, my older brother. Then 2 years later, they had Lisa. And then 7 years later, I kind of pop up, you know. But they swear it's not a mistake. Of course not. No. But anyway, I was the baby of the family. My dad he's passed away now, but he was, he drank a lot. You know, I can't really say he was an alcoholic, but he sure acted like one. I've seen enough, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, we kind of skirt that a little bit, but and there's a reason we do that, so I can honor that too.
Right.
But we kind of know.
Yeah. So I had a really good childhood, pretty much. There was a few bad memories of, you know, Dad's drinking. You know, I remember one time getting into the refrigerator. I was upset because he had been drinking for, you know, whatever reason. I mean, he would come home from work and just drink and then pass out in his chair or whatever. And I remember getting into the refrigerator and getting out of into the bottom drawer and getting out his Colt 45 malt liquor is what he would drink, which was, you know, I didn't think anything about it then. It's kind of funny when I think about it now. Yeah. We drank two things. It was Coke 45 malt liquor or Miller Genuine Draft. So, anyway, but I got into that drawer and I was crying and I took those beers, as many as I could handle at one time, out the front door and tossed them across the road from where we lived. And we were in, everywhere's rural down there. Yeah. So I tossed them across the road into the woods and, probably maybe 10 of them or so, something like that, until I felt okay. I don't know if I left any in there or not. Never heard anything about that. Never got, you know, in trouble or anything. But
did he see you do that, or is this...
No. He was probably asleep at the time.
So he may not know that they were even missing.
He could have not, because he didn't just drink the beer. There was sometimes a bottle of Old Granddad whiskey in the garage. Kind of hid that I would see every once in a while. So,
well, I had problems remembering how many I had left the next morning. That was one of my guessing games, because I'd get up in the morning and go to work, and I always got beer on the way home from work, just every day, every single day. And it was always kind of, now looking back, it's a little bit of a gamble, like how many did I need, you know, because there was a certain limit that was okay to like have around in front of the wife. You know, you could be up, but, you know, like if you start stockpiling too much, and it starts looking kind of funny, right? So you're doing that and you'd hit, you know, I think I got this much at home, so I'll just get a 6-pack. And then you get home and you go, fuck. Hell, honey, I'm going to go hit the grass. Got to go get some gasoline.
Yeah. I heard you tell that story before.
Yeah.
She must have thought that I had to get gas every time I mowed.
Every time I mowed. I only just bought enough to mow the grass one time.
You only had a 1 gallon can, didn't you?
So go ahead with that.
There wasn't any, abuse. I mean, physical or anything ever. Dad was really kind of hands off. It was the only time he would say anything was, it was very, very few little attaboys or anything like that. He was just really hands off. Mom did the majority of the parenting with all that. But, next to that, like I said, I had a really good childhood growing up. I was kind of awkward. Big, thick Coke bottle glasses, I did have a lazy eye when I was really, really young, but I can barely remember that. I think they corrected that with like a patch or something before I had the glasses. But I had a fantastic time through school. I did really well in school. I graduated with honors and was in the honor society.
Wow.
I played a few sports. I played baseball. I was really mediocre. Wrestled.
Really mediocre baseball player?
Really, yeah. Mediocre. And,
a real one?
Huh?
I was really mediocre.
Oh, right. Well, I wrestled. It was the first year of wrestling at LaRue County, so I had no idea what I was doing. It was a good coach, but the whole team, he just had so much on his hands. I did not do very well. It was fun. It was great exercise. I mean, you don't know what exercise is or practice is until you
I wrestled as a kid.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I didn't hear that. That's news. So were those not the toughest practices that you'd ever
hard.
been through?
Yeah.
Like 10 times.
I had some other hang-ups with
basketball?
that overshot the hard part of it. I thought basketball and baseball and football were, baseball not so much, but basketball and football was just as difficult practices-wise. But I didn't like them being touched by other dudes. I didn't like that wrestling stuff from some childhood stuff. I don't even know if I've shared here or not. But so I had some other issues that got in the way of overshadowed any issues with working hard. But I ran cross country and I did a lot of stuff, so I was like used to hard practices and hard stuff like that from that physical standpoint. Didn't really think about it, but I do understand what you mean.
Could have been the coach too. I mean, he was pretty brutal. He was like from Ohio. Ohio State's known for wrestling and all that stuff. So I played golf in high school. That was more what I got into because they changed the time from like spring to fall on the wrestling, and it kind of got into the golf. So I was a little better at golf than the other, but I wasn't like the best. I was like right above the cut for the traveling team. Best 5 for the traveling team, and every once in a while I would be an alternate. I'd be like 6 or 7, something like that.
Yeah.
But had a great time in high school. I really did. I was voted most devilish of my
that
class.
panned out all right.
Yeah, it did. We would go out and get into lots of hijinks. And when you're in a small town, you got to pretty much make up your own fun.
Yeah.
And we did very well at that.
You're not much younger than me.
I'm 42.
Okay, a little bit, yeah. I mean, our generation, that's what we did. We made our own fun. There wasn't the fun available to what there are my kids like.
No.
You had to go out and drum up your own fun.
Yeah.
And rarely was mine indoors.
Right, yeah.
If possible, unless the weather prohibited it. That's the only time my fun went indoors, and usually it wasn't. It was more like the cat in the hat shit where you're sitting inside on a rainy day wishing it was better so you could go outside.
Yeah, there wasn't anything. I mean, indoors. I mean, we would play video games and stuff later on, but for real fun, when you went out with your friends, then you went out. We ended up just doing crazy stuff. Water tower, climb the water tower. And,
just tore my favorite water tower down the other day.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Those big, large, round hay bales?
Yep.
The big ones. We rode one of those out in the middle of the road and set it on fire. That was fun for...
devilish.
Yes, absolutely. There was only 125 people in my graduating class. So maybe 500 total in the high school.
Yeah.
Possibly. So something like that. You knew everybody. And everybody knew you. And so if something happened, then everybody knew who did what, too. So... But
you weren't getting away with things.
No.
So was you drinking by high school or?
Not so much. My first drink that I recall really, it came with consequences. I was camping out with a couple of my neighborhood friends, lived down the road, and earlier that day, we had been down by the creek, and somebody had left some old Milwaukee down there in the creek, I guess to cool the next time they went fishing or whatever. Well, whenever they went back fishing, that old Milwaukee wasn't there anymore. So me and two of these friends were camping out in the backyard, backfield, really. We had like 11 acres, and not a lot, but it was plenty to camp on. And we were back there, and I guess we each had 2 beers. And I was probably 11, 12, not 13, I'd say 12 or 13, because it was just I was 7th grade, I think. And we drank those beers, and like it was 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. We decided it was a good time to go for a walk, and we went down the road, and my friends were acting pretty crazy. They were showing off for each other, ripping mailboxes off the post. They pulled some hubcaps off cars, tossed them into a creek. We went down to the downtown little area of a really small town, and busted up the fruit stand down there.
General mayhem.
Shaking up pops in the middle of the road, tossing them, busting them up. Well, the next day, I don't remember how it was. I think I was off riding my bike, but I came back home, and there was a sheriff's car in my driveway. I was like, this can't be good. But the sheriff came to talk to us. He's like, well, it wasn't too hard to figure out, what happened. There was a trail of mayhem.
Starting here.
And the only houses that didn't have anything done to them were mine and my other 2 friends' houses, so everything in between. So it was pretty easy for him didn't take really Columbo to figure that one out.
Yeah, wasn't testing his detective skills much.
No. But there were some cars that got keyed and everything else. So my 2 other friends...
I have that in my story also.
When it all came out, they got into a lot more trouble than I did, because I had to confess that I broke somebody's rain gauge, and that was the extent of my destruction, a rain gauge on a thing. So I ended up with 11 hours of community service, and I had to vacuum and sweep the elementary school that was not far down the road. My friends got I think they had hundreds of hours of community service and thousands of dollars that they had to pay in restitution. But I remember standing in front of the judge, and I can remember him saying, I think you need to pick your friends a little more wisely next time. Mm-hmm. So
the other guys truly did do more of the damage, and you were just along for the ride. And
they did.
Your rain gauge was just your little bit that you was able to ante up to your portion of the mayhem.
I wanted to feel like I was breaking
had
stuff
to do
too.
Something.
See? Yeah. Huh. But, yeah, so that kind of kept me out of trouble for a while, though, standing in front of a judge, and, yeah, I didn't drink again until I was about 16, because I had a truck, and me and a buddy went out, and that was my buddy Mike, his last name. Oh, I can't say that.
Yeah, don't say his last name.
Yeah, that's bad, because it was a joke.
Is it?
Yeah, it's a joke. I'll tell you about it later. We got 2 bottles of Mad Dog 2020, and we downed that.
Yeah, someday I'm probably going to get like where one of these, somebody says something and it slips through, and that person hears about it, and I end up with some kind of libel or slander suit about naming somebody. I'm glad you caught yourself.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't going to stop you. I'm just sitting here listening.
So, yeah, we ended up, just having, that was the first time I got real drunk, I guess, and ended up puking off the side of my truck, in the bed. Just slept in the bed of the truck, and that was that was another, I guess, consequence from that. But never got into any trouble from that. And then ended up having some drinks and here and there, but not anything major in high school. Everything kind of escalated after I got out of high school and got into college. Not really college, but a 2-year trade school, vocation school.
Yeah.
That's when everything really escalated from there. Should I go on with that? Or?
Sure, man.
Yeah, so at that college, my college plans kind of fizzled out because I was up for a scholarship, and it didn't work out. I had plans on aspirations and dreams or whatever of getting a scholarship and going to the speed school. And
oh, good. Dad's walking down here. I'm thinking he's just like traveling right down the yard. And I thought, I've told him 3 or 4 times today we're out here recording, and but he's stopping. He's got projects strewn throughout the yard out there that he's working on. Sorry.
It's okay.
I get a little distracted as he's starting. I'm counting it down like he's going to walk through that door in just a second and then go, whoops, which is fine. Yeah. No big deal. So I'm sorry. I totally zoned down on the last little bit.
Okay. I had aspirations of for going to U of L at speed school for engineering.
Yeah, me too.
And I had a scholarship lined up.
Wow.
And it fell through.
Not me.
So it fell through, and I had to come up with another plan. It fell through really late, and I had to come up with a new plan like ASAP. So my buddy was going to another school, this two-year tech trade school. He was going for AutoCAD. So I said, what else they got? He said, well, they got computers. I was like, all right, well, I'll do that. So that was it. And then I went and did that. And I did end up with a 2-year associate's degree in computer engineering technology. And that was in 96 is when I graduated. But during that time, 94 to 96, I graduated high school in 94. And from 94 to 96, going to that school, I really ramped up my drinking. And that's when I also started smoking pot, too. I'd smoked pot a handful of times before that, but then I really started seriously smoking pot and drinking.
Were you doing that together, or was just for conversation reasons? I mean, like, so when you started smoking pot, I started smoking pot because my buddy said, here, you want to smoke some pot? Then I found some kind of like increased concentration level thing that I felt like I was like slowed down the noise for me, where I could like concentrate better. So I like to smoke some dope and do my homework, or I like to smoke some dope and go to school, and I thought it was helping me.
No, I didn't think it was helping anything.
Ain't you?
It was helping me get tore up. That's all I was trying to do.
Okay, so you were using it along with the drinking. I mean, I did too, but there was,
yeah.
I was like a 24/7 pothead for a long, long time. Obviously I couldn't go to work drunk, or some people seem to be able to do that. I never did. That's not part of my story. I was unable to like pull that shit off. Yeah. But I could smoke pot.
Yeah.
At lunchtime, on the way to work, on the way to school. As soon as I got out, just stayed high.
Yeah. That wasn't, man. Not then. I didn't smoke pot for a long time because it was against my morals.
Yeah.
I had a real mental hang up.
Ain't gonna be no damn pothead, not me. Y'all do that, not me.
That's what I said.
I get it.
But drinking was fine. Getting toasted on alcohol. But
it's really interesting, like how we do this little dance that we do. Because people will they have a father that doesn't drink. And therefore, they won't drink. But, man, I'm going to do this other stuff, I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to be like him. Now, you went ahead and went right down the drinking alley. Your dad's drinking didn't seem to derail you a bit, We stand on one side of the thing and point at the potheads, and we stand on the potheads, stand on the other thing and say, at least I don't drink, I can drive. Nobody's wrecking their cars on pot. Shouldn't even be illegal. It's funny how we all pointed like, I'm okay.
Yeah.
It's y'all. I see that y'all have a problem.
Yeah, I said that, I'm sure, many times when I was young, seeing Dad with the drinking. I would never do that.
Never do that.
And I remember riding in the car down to Disney World or whatever for like a 12-hour drive in the car, and Dad smoking with the window just barely cracked.
You smoking cigarettes?
Yeah, well, and I guess I was smoking too. It felt like it,
yeah.
And I was like, I'll never smoke. And then I started smoking at 16. So,
Interesting stuff.
Yeah.
So you started smoking pot and getting tore up, alcohol in college and ramped up?
Yeah, college was, that part of college was pretty easy for me. I didn't have to study really at all. I mean, I've always been a pretty good test taker, and there was just some fundamental stuff that they were doing there, and I just floated through it, really. My hard part was, just getting there and being there, getting in the seat enough, and also paying for, paying for it. I mean, I took out loans for it, but we had to get an apartment and share an apartment and split the the money, and I started out at working at a large corporation and where all the college kids work at in Louisville. But it wasn't paying enough money. You could only go there part time and only get like 16 hours or something like that. So I had to take a full time job because at the time my parents couldn't help out, with any money. So took a full time job, went to school at night, graduated, 6 months later than my buddy did, But anyway, I was still drinking, heavily. I mean, it wasn't every day at that point yet. But once I got out of there, with a 2-year associate degree, I got a $8 an hour job working on a bench technician working on printers, stuff like that. Printers, barcode printers, little...
So where was that at that point in time? Was that did it feel like that was worthwhile, $8 an hour?
No, I wasn't very happy with anything at that. Actually,
sometime back in the early '90s, I took a job and they gave it. I still remember for whatever reason it hits me. The money was $8.90, man, and I was in high. I've since been told that's not the right way to say things. I was really happy.
Yeah. No, I was not happy because I was like, man, I still had to take a side job at Pizza Hut. I had to still deliver pizzas at Pizza Hut, and I'm like, this is some BS, man.
It's just to assist.
Yeah. I was like, to get ahead, and I've got an associate degree, and I've still got to work at. So I started looking, and then I found an ad in the paper that said make $60,000, in sales. So, sales, okay, $60,000, all right. So I quit that job, and got out of that and started selling replacement windows and vinyl siding. So I thought I would do good in sales, and about 6 months later, I didn't make $60,000. In 6 months, I didn't make $30,000. What I'd done is I maxed out my credit cards, and then I started installing replacement windows.
Oh yeah,
I was getting paid like $100, under the table or whatever.
Sell them and put them in.
Time, yeah. Well, I wasn't selling them; somebody else was selling them because I couldn't sell nothing. I was too damn honest. I couldn't blow smoke up these guys' ass, I'd say, look, this place isn't the best place to buy. You can get cheaper stuff.
Yeah. Here's a card of where you ought to go buy your windows.
Yeah, I'm not a salesman. I mean, I'd have to really love something before I could sell. But anyway, yeah. So I did that for a while, and then I ended up finding other jobs and just scraping around really until I found a job that actually paid really well. I was 24 when I got that a job with a major company, and that's when I really made a good. That was a career that I was getting into then, and my electronic background did help out with getting that job, so it did pay off eventually.
Yep. And we got past where we bounce around, and it's a kind of a putt course kind of thing where you bounce off of these little things, finally find the hole, and settle into it and go, oh yeah, this is it. Okay, cool. This is good for a while.
I bounced around quite a bit during that time. I increased my pot use. I got to where I would buy enough so that I could sell to my friends and smoke for free.
Right.
And then, the whole time, drinking, the whole time, drinking never went away. And I also tried everything else, anything under the sun. I do anything. The only thing I never did anything intravenous, but
me either. But everything else I did.
Yeah. I had an issue with cocaine for about 2 years, and then I felt like that was making me go crazy. I felt like I was losing my mind because I was so paranoid.
I just like how we soft sell it too. I had an issue.
Yeah.
Just really want to see big deal. Just 2-year affair with cocaine. No big deal. Like we'll see where the money hole is after that little affair.
Yeah. Well, I say,
I get it. I totally get it, man.
What makes it feel like it isn't?
It's just interesting that we, just hit landed funny.
What makes it feel like it wasn't as much of a big deal? Because it was. I said, well, I'm done, and I was done. After. It's
my supply dried up on me, and I just stopped it, and it really ended up being not a big deal. I just couldn't get any more.
Right. Yeah.
Actually, I looked at it at the time like it was somewhat of a blessing because it was, I was starting to have an issue.
Yeah, all right. Well, that kicked off a problem with anxiety for me. That or either triggered it or put it into my mind or whatever, or maybe it was from the constant drinking that I'd been doing too. Who knows where it actually came from? But chicken or the egg or whatever, anxiety, or because you've been drinking
alcoholism.
Constantly. Yeah, right.
At its root.
Yeah. Well, yeah, my conscience didn't much like what was going on, and it'd been kicking me, and I had been paying attention for a long time. But I could quit. I quit everything, well, except for weed.
Except for
I still smoke a lot of marijuana and drank.
It's so quintessential, though, man. I mean, it really is, and we can justify and rationalize that stuff. That I just quit everything, except
yeah.
Well, hold on.
Yeah, that's all I'm doing.
It's cool, man. And Marshall does have a big smile on his face, and we both do. So don't misunderstand from the people who don't see the visual. But it's just interesting that how we do compartmentalize this stuff, and my ego wants to not have this thing.
Yeah,
and it wants to put sell all these little things in the past, and same thing. It ends up eventually killing us if we're not.
I'm all right.
Careful.
This is why I'm all right. This is why.
Yeah. So you stopped doing everything.
Well,
except for.
Yeah. Basically, all I did was quit coke, and but then I still had the anxiety issues, and I mean these anxiety issues were like full blown panic attacks, where I didn't want to, and so I started not wanting to be around any groups of people, anything like that. I had trouble with that. Kind of put me in a shell. I just didn't want to be around anybody, so it got to be where I would just want to go home and drink. And if I had any panic or whatever, I would smoke, and that wasn't helping that anxiety. And at first, I never had it in the beginning, any anxiety from marijuana. It was just, it would totally calm me and everything was cool, and I could giggle and everything would be good. But later on, it wasn't, and even towards the very end. Of the last times that I smoked it, I was, I'd take one hit and zoom. I was just so paranoid. It was unbelievable.
From the pot?
Yeah.
I started getting real paranoid on it too, man. Hide in the basement paranoid.
Yeah. I was also alone too. I would go out and have relationships, with women, but it was just very selfish relationships, which I can see now after, the looking back at it, looking into it, looking at myself introspectively. I was very selfish, but it would be it'd be like a month-long one-night stand or, a couple months, and then that's about as long as I'd let it take. Sometimes even a year, but it still wouldn't be anything serious. But still, it got to be where I was drinking every day and smoking, every hour. I wouldn't have to drink every day. I could go to work and come home. I didn't have to do anything at work. But as soon as I left, as soon as I walked out that door, like you said, wondering how many beers you had at home, I usually had a pretty good idea, But
the fact of the matter was they were home. They were not in the car.
Right.
There's where the problem lied for me.
I would get them to get me from work to home. You'd stop there and pick up. I would get a 12-pack of beer and usually a pint of whiskey, and that was pretty good for a weekday. That would give me where I could sleep pretty easily. And still get up, take a shower, and go to work and be just fine. And over and over and over and over, that took a toll on my body and my mind, I think, But kind of getting ahead of myself again there. There was lots more consequences, man. I spent a night in jail in LaRue County for a DUI. In Taylor County, that was a DUI, but I got that amended to a public intoxication. And spent a night and about 4 hours in Fayette County for a public intoxication, and then for a DUI second, I spent a few days in Jefferson County, and that one is a real eye opener there. The other ones, like LaRue County and Taylor County, you almost feel like Otis, you know? They're like, here's the key. Go on, get in there and, you know, just sober up. You know, they come in the morning with bacon and eggs and sausage and toast and orange juice and grape juice. You know, here you go. And you're like, holy crap, this is good. This is
It's
awesome.
not too bad. Yeah.
I got that at
I'll
LaRue
see
County.
y'all next weekend.
At LaRue County and Taylor County, I got that. You go into Jefferson County and you're in there with about 30 other guys.
A little different story.
And they'll come in and, you know, 2 or 3 times a day, and they come in with Zabo sandwiches. And I'm like, what's the Zabo sandwiches? Somebody says, Zabo sandwich I brought in yesterday. And they were nasty, man. It was bologna and cheese, and it was like two-tone bologna, kind of. And
We're
then
starting
cheese,
to turn.
If you didn't like cheese, then that's too bad, because the cheese, you try to pull it off, you pull off a corner, and you pull off another chip. You pull off another chip. It was awful.
Those places really are supposed to be, you know, places that when you go there, you're supposed to have the experience that sends you to where you don't want to come back.
There wasn't a concierge.
You get those bacon and egg stuff kind of things, and champagne and mimosas in the morning and stuff like that. Yeah, you say, hell, this is okay.
Yeah, I want to give them a review.
You want to give a review?
Yeah, I want to give Jefferson County Public Jail a review. I'm just joking. Yeah,
So it woke you up. You decided, hey, man, this is not something
Yeah.
I want to be doing. Plus, you were in there for more than a day. That's another thing. I've never spent more than a one-night detox in any places. I've been locked up a few times, but I've never had to do any more than sober up and get out tomorrow.
Yeah, a good tip is never get, you know, locked up on a Memorial Day weekend or holiday weekend.
That is a good tip.
That's
we'll
what
put
happened.
I'm going to start, along with the PQAs, the public quit announcements, I'm going to start putting some public sobriety, or some, well, I don't know what, I'll have to come up with something else. Do not get locked up on holiday weekend.
Yes. It really gives you some time to think, actually. But, yeah, so I ended up with a nice ankle bracelet with that one for a while, and hip. Does that make sense? The home
incarceration program.
Yeah, so I was on that I think I was only on that for either a month or 3 months. Or maybe.
I really don't know too many people who's been on as long as I was. I really don't.
Yeah, I haven't heard that. Since
to a year.
Luckily at that time I didn't have to do any driving for my job, so I did lose my license for a year, but I kept my job because it just worked out that way. I was really lucky, actually, but I drove.
So you lost your license completely?
Yeah, for
not
a year.
hardship thing where you could still drive to work,
Right?
Or
No,
100%
gone
lost
for 1 year. Yeah.
What'd you do?
I bought a bike. And I rode for 6 months. I rode about 7 miles one way, or 5 or 6 miles, something like that, in Louisville from the Highlands, an apartment I had in the Highlands, all the way downtown to where I worked. Driving down from Louisville and the Highlands isn't too bad on a bike, but coming back, and I was working evening shift too, so driving back up into the Highlands on a bicycle at 1 a.m. through from downtown. This country kid from Hodgeville, Kentucky, riding his bike through downtown Louisville was interesting, to say the least. But I would just, I pedaled good. I lost, 30 pounds.
Yeah, that's probably good for you.
That's 6 months. And then I moved out of that apartment, and I got another apartment that was right next to where
closer.
It was right across the road from where I worked. And, that place even led me to another thing. That place is right next to, some strip clubs and stuff, but I was, in that trouble from the home incarceration and all that stuff, I had to go to classes, alcohol classes, and I just kept drinking through that too. I'm messing up the storyline wonderfully here.
You've heard me say that 100 times, right?
Yeah. Well, because there was a trip to a rehab center at some point in there. Two of my sisters, or my two sisters, Lisa and Debbie, had came and got me. They were at that apartment. They came to that apartment that in the Highlands, and they said, "What are you doing?" Because there wasn't every flat. I mean, you couldn't see a flat spot in the floor or a coffee table or anything, because there were beer bottles everywhere. And they're like, "You got to get out of here. We got to." And they put me in a car and took me to rehab. I think it was in Indianapolis. I think it was called Fairbanks or something like that.
Wow. They hauled your ass off somewhere.
Yeah, they did. And I gave it a half-hearted attempt after that. During that time, but I didn't really work any steps at all. So I was sober or dry for about 2 months, something like that, maybe. And then I was like, I don't need all this stuff. I can quit this myself. I know, sheer will, I can do this. I've quit all this other stuff. I can quit drinking, and I was still smoking at that time, still smoking weed. But so one rehab trip, and then was that the strip clubs next to that hotel. I bet I spent not hotel next the apartments I was living in next to my work. I bet I spent 10 or 12 grand, something like that, at that strip club. I walked in there, and it was a little bar strip club. It was a terrible place, but I'd walk in there, and it was like they say, Norm. No, it wasn't that, but they're like,
I get it. Yeah.
Come on, sit down, and I would just give them my credit card, and they would just bring me the beers, and then they'd give me money for a lap dance or whatever, So I would just give them money, and I did that the whole time I lived there. But anyway,
it's more of that, you should say, but to me, I know today that's still that fundamental thing. I'm trying to get this satisfaction from outside things, no matter what they are. I will try this, I will try that. So I get these girls around me for a little bit. That makes me feel better for a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Just constantly reaching outside to try to fill this hole that's inside of me.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the core thing, alcoholism, really.
I didn't look into any of that at the time.
Heck no.
I was just sitting there on a couch in my window. I would open my window and I'd hear that down the street.
Well, I had to go
floating that way, and I'd head on down the hallway, and I'd be gone. But yeah,
it's just interesting how many, as people sit on the other side of this podcast table, I just hear people talk about all these things. They're hunting for this thing to fulfill themselves, and they never do find it, until we find this.
Right. Yeah. Yes. So I'm not sure where to go from there. Actually,
about how old were you at this time when you were working in this joint?
That was my second DUI. Was probably around. See, I had a DUI right before I got that job. It was about 2 years later, so probably early or late 20s, early 30s.
Okay.
And yeah. I got out of there and I bought a house. After I cleared up the DUI stuff, I was still drinking, still smoking. I bought a house and thought that moving out away from the city or whatever would fix everything, And of course, that's the geographical change.
Yeah, and the Wizard of Oz thing too. If I only had a heart, if I only had a brain, if I only had a house, if I only have a kid, if I only have a...
Yeah. Moved out to Shepherdsville. And that was in... that was way after. This was 2005. So I moved out to Shepherdsville. And I don't know where I'm going with this story now. But my sisters had somewhere around this time, I just continued to do the same things, drinking, drugging, weed and beer, weed and booze, some pills in there. I'd also been to a psychiatrist for the anxiety things. I've been to multiple psychiatrists and therapists and everything, and most of them that I ran into, unfortunately, were just kind of pill pushers, is what I felt like. But in all honesty, I was never honest with them. I never told them anything. I never told them the truth. I told them what they wanted to hear or what I wanted them to know. And I knew what I needed to say to get what they were going to give me. And I always had a continuous supply of Xanax and whatever other thing that they were going to give me for depression. So that was constant, ongoing the whole time as well. In 2007, the younger of the two older sisters, Lisa, got sick. She always had these migraines, and but at this time, in 2007, she got one, and it didn't go away. And she kind of went into a coma. And she started out at the hospital in Elizabethtown. They kept her there for a couple of weeks. Couldn't figure out what was wrong with her. Sent her to U of L. She stayed there for a couple of weeks. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with her. They sent her to the Cleveland Clinic. And most of the family went up there, me included. And, of course, I was in the middle of my drinking, of course. And but I tried to not drink while I was there. And while I should have been paying attention to the rest of my family, I was more worried about myself and not drinking or whatever. And I freaked out up there. And they ended up putting me in a bed. And they gave me Ativan at the time, I think. And the nurse that was administering the Ativan, or one of them in there, somebody, they told me this later. They said that they'd never seen them give that much to anybody before. She said it was like twice as much as she'd seen them give anybody. And I was just uncontrollable. I don't know why, but I guess it was because I hadn't drank in a couple days whenever I'm used to having all the alcohol in my system. But
and you're taking Xanaxes by now.
Yeah, Xanax.
Because that's the same class of drugs. That Ativan and Xanaxes are benzodiazepines, and if you've been taking Xanax and they give you this lightweight ass Ativan, it'd make a lot of sense that it wasn't having the effect on you that.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. There's no telling what I was taking at the time. I don't really remember.
Yeah,
but I do remember hallucinating, just crazy stuff in there in the room, and freaking out my brother-in-law, and he's had to come stay with me, and this is something that that I've dealt with since then, going through the steps. These feelings that I've thought about, makes me feel terrible that the attention was on me instead of my sick sister, who ended up passing away there. So it was a real rare disease. It was like a encephalitis type disease from vasculitis.
Was this trip? So shortly thereafter this trip?
It was during that trip at Cleveland Clinic. Yeah.
Wow.
And that was in 2007. So then we went home, and I just went back to doing the same stuff. The woe is me kind of thing. I never thought I was going to make it to 40. I didn't. I just figured I didn't see any reason to. I didn't have any real will to live, actually. And I was dealing with this anxiety and issues too. I remember laying in my bed with a gun. One time, several times, I would stare down the hallway thinking people were coming to get me and stuff. And I would just stare down there. I was just scared. I mean, almost motionless. But another time I sat with that gun, and I had it right here, holding it right up next to my head, and I don't know why, but I just pulled the trigger, just sitting in the living room on the couch. I didn't put it to my head, but I did put a 45 hole in my ceiling. Just some stupid things that I did, and I did think about it. I was too coward, I think. I didn't want to kill myself. But I did actually ask a friend of mine to kill me.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, that's a lot of load to be sticking on somebody.
Yeah, isn't that nice? That's another glaring show of my cowardice and selfishness.
Powerlessness and unmanageability and the disease of alcoholism.
I was a mess for a long time. So Lisa passed away in 2007, and then in the winter of 2000, or spring of 2010, my dad had heart surgery. He went through the heart surgery fine. He did everything, but then there were some complications to that surgery. Apparently, possibly who knows what it was, but he got an infection. And then he passed away in 2010. In February, I think. So that was really tough, but we were still really close, and then my older sister Debbie passed away that summer. They found her floating in her pool. Well, and they think the best thing that they know is that she slipped on suntan lotion or something, hit her head, and drowned.
Mm.
So with my sister in September of 2007, and then Dad in of 2010, the spring, and then my other sister in that summer, it was a mess for my entire family. And I felt like I kind of did a downward spiral there as well. And again, it's all about me and spiral, and I don't know, it was tough, it was rough. But
yeah, no doubt, man. I mean, it's a tough period, and it didn't make any difference when, and then you throw this disease on top of that, and no ways to cope, and no real tools to deal with that. You don't much stand a chance.
Yeah, yeah. I went more down the rabbit hole than I ever had. Somehow I went to another rehab, and I think it was called Tinbrook at this time. A lot of the people call it the Brook or whatever, but it was Tinbrook, I think, back when I went to it. A while ago. Unless that's still what it is.
That's the name of it at one point.
Okay. Well, I went there, and I still only half-hearted it, but I said that, and I just went my own way. I really didn't do any steps. But in 2011, I was drunk calling my brother, because it's just me and him left of the siblings and my mom of the immediate family. But I'd call my brother. The only time we'd ever talk was whenever we were drunk. But I was calling down to talk to him. He lives down in Alabama. And I talked, and somebody answered the phone, and I was like, "Hey, you're not my brother." And it was a girl, and she said, "No." I was like, "But you're not
real intuitive.
You're not his wife either." She's got a thick German accent, And she's like, "No, I'm not." Yeah, I was drunk, of course. But anyway, so it ended up, long story short, we ended up talking. That ended up being my wife.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I went down there. Well, actually, I went down there to talk to her. My brother said, I asked him, I said, "Hey, who's this girl down there living with you?" He said, "Hey, you leave her alone. She's a good girl. Don't be messing with her." I was like, "All right." And so then he went on a trip to Germany. He goes every year. And when he went to Germany, I went down to Alabama and stayed down there with her. And then I brought her back up here, and we got married.
So what was she to him?
2012. She was going to. My brother worked on airplanes in the Navy, and my wife, was going to airplane school to work on airplanes. And she was a friend of his wife's. They worked together at an airline when they worked together.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious. I didn't. What was the connection?
Yeah,
why did he have this gal down there?
It was more of a friend of his wife.
Or did you go steal his girlfriend and bring her back to Louisville?
No, I'm sorry. It was more of a friend of his wife.
I got it. Yep. Seemed to be a hole that needed to be plugged up.
I wouldn't be above any of that. Either.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Sorry about that. Yeah. So so I went down before I brought her up to Louisville. I went down there and met her. And every time I talked to her on the phone, I'd been drunk, because I'm always drunk, but and high. So I went down there, and I was drunk and high, and we had a great time. And at the end of the day, she said, "If I really see a future of us together," she said, "but not with you drinking like you do. I can't handle that." That kind of thought. I was like, "What?" I was like, "Wait a second." Yeah.
Well, sorry.
I went outside.
Well, I'm out of here.
Man, I went outside, and I was like looking at my truck, and I was like, I was very, very close, but I thought about it. I don't know what happened, but I walked in. I said, "All right, fine." So I did. And I quit. That night that I told her I would, or that morning, I said, "All right, I won't drink no more." So I went back home, and there was like 8 beers in the refrigerator at the time still left over, and those sat in there until like September or something like that. This went from March to about September or something like that. It was around my birthday. Those sat there. I didn't drink a beer. I was still smoking weed. A ton of it. But then because at first she said that was okay, but then that got wrong too. She wanted me to stop before we got married. We got
She
married.
wanted you to stop everything.
7-Eleven, yeah, 7-Eleven, 2012.
Women.
Yeah, I got married at 7-Eleven. And I did quit smoking weed. I threw that all away, and that was my first real attempt at trying to quit in a long time. I was still just doing it by myself though, and like I said, in September I started drinking again a little bit here and there. Then I started with the wine. I started to, I won't drink beer, I'll drink wine. I'll be sophisticated since I'm married now.
Yep.
And
Quintessential stuff, man. Switching substances, thinking I'll do this and I'll do that, and I'll only do this. I stopped drinking, except for wine.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And then it was only, I only have one glass, at night, because red wine's good for you and it's for your heart. So I'm doing a good thing here, and managed it that way, tried to. But eventually, I would slip off and I'd get drunk. And
that one cup turned into the bottle.
And it got to be where I was drinking, I would chase I would get a bottle of vodka and drink vodka with the wine.
Hide that away. And
yeah. So then I'd have the glass of wine. Yeah. And then I'd have the bottle hidden downstairs or wherever. Yeah. Big chug.
my finger, pinky out and everything.
Exactly. I'm sophisticated. Except when I'm chugging this hot vodka. Anyway. There was,
So you married her by now?
7-11, 2012. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, but we got married. And so there started coming some consequences of her getting, kind of ticked, about the things that I'd done. I don't remember a lot of them, But
the cycles and the empty promises and well, fucked up once again and on your ass, baby. I promise I'll never do it again.
Yep. Over and over. Over and over. And I didn't do anything different. I kept on saying what I would do different. Okay, I'll only drink, this time. Only drink this time. She started getting involved with Alcoholics Anonymous. And, I'm sorry, Al-Anon.
Al-Anon.
Yeah. She started getting involved with Al-Anon and learning things to help her deal with
Somebody said she was complaining to somebody about you.
Oh, yeah.
And they said, here, go.
I'm sure.
Go check these people out. Maybe they could help you.
Yeah. I don't know. I really don't know what all happened. She would be able to tell me more about that. We don't talk too much about what happened before, but later on, we found out she was pregnant. This is a couple of years in. Found out she was pregnant, and then I thought, oh well, here it is. This will fix it.
Yep.
Of course. And it didn't. Then I was like, well, I'll never drink around him. Then I did. But after whatever, I started feeling like I was sliding back into that feeling that I felt like whenever I was back at that house, and I had those dark feelings and feeling like I was, the anxiety was always coming. That was another excuse I always used with her was, I get this anxiety and the only thing I can do is drink because it takes it away, and it more covered it up, I'd say, but it still helped me get to sleep or whatever. But this last time I ended up, about a year and a couple weeks ago, whatever, I was out playing golf, and we drank plenty of beer playing golf. I was drunk, left the golf course drunk, stopped by a bar, stayed for a couple hours, got enough there to be drunk. Left there, went to another bar, and closed that bar down. And I left that bar, and somehow or another ended up at a city that's like 75 miles out of my way. I don't know how I got there. I know that I did run off the road twice because I know people had to push me. I don't know if I wrecked at somebody's party or what, but somebody got me back on the road at one point out of on the side of the road at a party. Then another time I was in the middle of the woods, and I ran off the road and was in a ditch, and some people driving by had to get a strap and pull me. And there was like 6 cars behind them. It was a miracle that I didn't go to jail that night. And I even ended up back home somehow that morning. And that was actually, and then I carried that on like the next day or maybe the next weekend or whatever. I ended up going out and I shot my gun. I know that my gun was shot because it was empty and it had dirt all over it, and my shoulder hurt. This is another night that I somehow got back home. I didn't know what had happened. Ended up going to the hospital, found out I'd broken my collarbone again. I've broken my collarbone several times falling off my bike drunk, whenever I was on my bicycle. But anyway, my wife was like, that's it. Again, she said that's it before, but this time she got some help, and she's like, you got to do something. You have to now. You have to. And something finally said, yeah, I guess I do. I guess I do need help. I can't do it by myself. So she changed my doctor, because at this time I still had a doctor that was giving me a unlimited supply of Xanax, basically. And I was still on Xanax and muscle relaxers, along with beer and whatever I wanted to drink. But she changed my regular physician. She got me with a physician that is dedicated to substance abuse, or he was not dedicated to it, but he's a real specialist in substance abuse. And the first thing he did, he talked to me for about an hour and a half in my first meeting, and I was like, man, I've never had a doctor talk to me this much, and he was very thorough. And my wife was sitting in there, and she was trying to talk to him. It's like, wait, he shut her up. He shut her down completely. He's like, you can talk later, and I was like, oh, I like him. But he found out everything that was going on with me, and he said, all right, here's the plan. And he put me on this plan to get me completely off the Xanax. Started working on getting, what I did need, what I could use for times of trouble or whatever, and had me on like an 8-month plan of how to get off of everything. I was like, all right. And then he said, now you need some more help, and he directed me to I said, look, I can't go into these group meeting places. I just can't do it.
It's anxiety.
Exactly. I was too scared, and I couldn't do it. I was shut down. He said, well, go to this person or this person. He gave me 2 people. So I went to this therapist, and I talked to him, because I looked him up, and he said, I looked it up, and it said that he was doing unconventional types of recovery. I was like, that is me. Unconventional. I need that guy, because I'm unconventional. I'm different.
Unique.
Exactly. So I went in there, and come to find out, he's completely and totally all about the 12 steps. I was like, what's unconventional about that? But anyway, he got me in.
It's relatively unconventional, really, compared to how many people are using it.
Maybe, but I didn't want any part of the 12 steps. But I started talking to him, and I've said this before, but he was, I didn't know anything about 12 steps, but I knew that what that guy had, I wanted. And backstories, he's 26 years of sobriety and recovery. And whenever he walked into the room, he'd smile, and hhis smile lit up the room.
Yeah.
When he walked across the room, it was like he was one of those electronic football games. It was like he was buzzing. His feet didn't hit the floor very much. And he was like, and he was just, it was like, wow, this guy's full of life. Like, man, is that possible for me? And that put it in my head. And he was like, of course it is, and he really turned it around for me. So with my general physician that started getting me off the other stuff, and then this guy who's going to straighten out my brain, my mind, and really spirituality is what I found was the problem. Because he's like, you think anxiety's your problem? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, you think drinking's your problem? I was like, yes. He's like, yeah, I forgot somebody give me. He's like, none of that's your problem. He's like, you got a spirituality problem. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I need to quit drinking, And he taught me differently. He said, no, you need to. He said, your drinking and your anxiety are byproducts. They're, symptoms.
The bottle is only a symptom
of your
problem.
All
this other stuff are trying to fill this up.
Yeah, none of that made sense, but then now it does, and it did. So that's what got me going. I did the little questionnaire thing, and he's like, you need to go into a hospital and stay there for 2 years. I was like, I can't do that. He's like, that's what you need. You want to live? I was like, yeah. He's like, that's what you need. I was like, what's the next thing? He's like, 6 months. He's like, I was like, what's the minimum thing that I can do? What if we just come in here and talk? He's like, no, you got to do intensive outpatient is the minimal. I mean, because I could tell you're not going to do it. I was like, I got to keep my job. So intensive outpatient. He said, but you better be serious. And I was like, yeah, of course. I mean, and I had to be serious too because it was $1,600, and my insurance wasn't going to pay for it because he's out of my network. But I was too scared at that point either to go back and try anything else. I was like, this has to work, and I have to do everything in my power to make this work because I was afraid that this was like my last chance too. Because of, I felt that I was lucky to make it this far and to feel the feelings that I was feeling. I wanted to add to them and let them grow like a snowball. And that's what I needed. And I talked to my wife about it, and she's like, go. She's like, if it was me or your son, you would find that money somewhere. I was like, okay. So I did it. I come up with the $1,600, and I went there Thursday and Friday of every week and did countless exercises in between then and there. And he was on fire too. I never saw a therapist be so excited. He was happy to have somebody that was interested in seeing what he was saying. Man. And I would dig into what he was saying, and I would ask him questions. And he was he loved that. Yeah. So that was a springboard for me, and I feel like I haven't let up since then. I feel that way. I feel like I've backed off here and there for maybe a day or two or whatever, but I'm trying. I feel like I've given it my 100% best, and if I don't feel that way, then I can feel it eating at me. So I know that I have to keep the hammer down, and.
So from there, I mean, because that's not what got you well. Going to this therapist and seeing this guy.
No. Well, I mean, no.
Some points you had you in some rooms.
Yeah.
To get to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was instructions. I had to go to. I had to find.
So you're doing outpatient 2 days a week.
You
didn't do any detox.
Thursday and Friday. What?
You didn't go to any detox.
No. Well, no. Whenever I was in. Yeah. Not this time. When I was in the hospital. They were like, my alcohol level was through the roof, and she was like, they were saying, I don't know how they told my wife, I don't know how he's functioning the way he's functioning. And I said, no, I'll take care of it. I went and I bought 2 6-packs of Honey Brown, which is the beer that I love forever. And I said, I'll do it. I'll take care of it. And through the next 3 days, I drank, 4 beers that first night or whatever. And then 3 beers the next day and 2. And then the last day was I had 1 beer that night, and I detoxed myself.
Okay.
So that I didn't have seizures or anything else.
But you're also coming off the Xanax at the same time.
Yeah, but I didn't just stop those.
Right. You weaned off of those at the same time.
Prescribed.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they're liquid alcohol. I mean, they're alcohol in pill form. That's what they are. They have almost the exact same.
Yeah, that's what the doctor said.
Operating thing on you, so you're coming off that at the same time.
Yeah, from there I went into the rooms though.
Did this guy recommended you do that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Was it a requirement?
You gotta find. Yeah, he said
you have to get paper signed and all that.
No, because there was no court involved.
Yeah, that doesn't mean much.
Not from him.
Yeah,
there wasn't. No, he just said.
I'm just curious,
and he took me by my word on everything too, because he knew. I mean, because I was coming in, I gave presentations. I would give him presentations on things. So
he was assigning you homework.
Yeah, like the trans theoretical theory and or model, the TTM trans theoretical model, and doing stuff like that. Come in and give me a presentation on it. Tell me your story. Give me your story. Give me 15 minutes. Do it like this, and he would grade me on it and do this stuff. So that was for 6 weeks, and it was supposed to be, no, it was 4 weeks. 4 weeks. It was supposed to be 4 hours a day on Thursday and Friday, and it was never less than 4. Like it was usually 5 hours. He went above and beyond, and we never stopped. There wasn't any smoke breaks.
So other people in this class?
Only there, no.
It was one-on-one.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was intensive. It was fully intense, and I would hit him as hard as he was hitting me on everything, and we still keep in touch. And he's he asks me things to help him out at times, and I do if I can.
Oh, cool.
So yeah,
Heck yeah, man. A
we're
lot of
trying to
gratitude,
start a program in Hodgenville, and
Yeah.
he had asked me, my thoughts and stuff like that, and I gave them to him, and now we are, or I am carrying through with it, and still keeping up with him on doing what we can to help the community.
Yep. So you started going to meetings?
Yes. Yeah, and it took
this
a while.
guy had you doing that.
Yeah, and it was rough to get over my anxiety and stuff, but I did. I kept going. I just went in. I started getting that feeling of that, if I'm doing something uncomfortable, if it feels uncomfortable to me, but I know that I'm safe, it's probably the right thing to do. I'm probably doing the right thing. I got the feeling that way. So I would put myself into these uncomfortable situations of the different groups of people, and I'm going into places I've never been to before and whatever. But I did. I started going. I finally, I found a couple places that I would like, and I would go on Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays, Tuesdays, just whenever I could. All the time still going to work, keeping everything. Well, no, I was off from work because I broke my collarbone. So I was off for a full month. So that gave me a good opportunity to really dig into this stuff and do what and really, like I said, hit the ground running on that. So yeah, I forgot about that. I was off for a month or 6 weeks for my collarbone to heal, and that whole time was just intensive therapy. I went to the meetings, and I found out I needed to find a sponsor and a home group, and there in Elizabethtown there is a lot of rehab facilities and clean living places, sober living places. So they do a lot of meetings around there, so you can see like the gamut of people. There's a lot of sobriety there too, and people with 35 years plus, a lot of that too. But I went into one group, and again, during this time I listened to those podcasts all the time, listen to the podcasts at work. Whenever I did go back to work, it was just, I was about a meeting. If I couldn't go to the meeting, I was listening to the podcast, the sober speaker tapes, speaker podcasts, whatever.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Like to some extent, like the speaker tapes are kind of like an original podcast.
Exactly.
Before, because they've been recording those things for a long, long time.
Sure. So I was listening to those all day, and then I was at a meeting, and I was talking about that stuff, and I knew I needed to find a sponsor, and I walked into a group where Mark was at, and they asked who's going to be a sponsor, and he raised his hand, and I remember he had said something, he had shared something, so it's something triggered me to.
So this meeting had a sponsorship call. Everybody who's available to sponsor a guy, raise your hand.
Yes, and he raised his hand. So I said, after the meeting, I walked over and I said, hey, well, first we just made some chit chat. I was like, hey, I've been something he said. I don't know what it was. I can't remember, but it made me think about something. And I said, hey, I've been listening to these tapes, and I love this one guy. And I said, it was I'm drawing a blank now. Oh. Anyway, this guy, and he's like, yeah, and he said his last name. He's like, oh yeah, and this, and yeah, and we were both talking about his story, and I was like, hey, and he said something else too, because he's a technology guy, and we were talking about that stuff, and I was like, hey, I don't have a sponsor, and he's like, okay, give me a call tomorrow. So, and then from there on, that's where we went. He's like, well, where are you at? I kind of told him, and
where are you at, like
in the steps?
Yeah.
What I've been doing? Yeah, how you been doing? So yeah, then going around to the different meetings in E-Town, I started feeling, I got a home group down there, and it was a really good group. It's a really tight one. There's only like six or eight people usually there, maybe 10 at the most, and it's really great shares in there, and you get to share, and everybody's listening to you, and there's something about that eye-to-eye meeting where everybody's connecting and everything.
Yep, certainly.
That was fantastic, and but at the other, that was just once a week, and at the other meetings, sometimes I just felt like there got to be something more. There's got to be something more out there. I feel like there's so much more, and I can sense it, but I can't smell it. I can't taste it. I can't see it. I can't hear it, but but I know there's got to be something out there. And then, in with our friend that told me about the podcast. And then he said, man, you got to go there because, man, when they say, are these extravagant promises, man, you ought to hear that room, man. And so that got us intrigued. And then that's how we got up there. But also me listening to that, this podcast right here, and hearing Chase and Juice Man. And I don't want to start listing these people because then I'm going to miss somebody,
Yeah, I get it.
Hearing these guys talking, and Quentin, of course, to begin with, but hearing, like I said, I didn't want to start listing names or I want to forget somebody.
Right. Well, that's my point. That's part of the point of why I started doing this. Is the same reason is that there's something going on. There's something going on. It's a little bit I smell more kind of thing going on. I don't understand it one bit, but I want it out in the universe that other people might be able to get their hands on it.
Yeah. Well, that's what you're doing.
Exactly what happened.
Yeah, and I could sense it. And I was like, that's what I'm talking about. I gotta go get a piece of that. I gotta go get around these people and do what they're doing, and then those things will happen. So, that's why I'm here now. I'm so thankful to be here, and for what and who has been put in my path. It's a miracle.
It's my word.
Well,
miracles.
It's your room.
Yeah. It's not. I don't mean to have the monopoly on the miracle thing, but we say promises, and to me, it's quite a bit. Weighs a little more than promises in my life.
Yeah.
I call them miracles. So you worked the steps right with this sponsor, Mark.
Yes. Well, for the most, somewhat. I mean, I did my steps, a lot of the steps with the therapist, and went so far up to, step 5, basically. I did a 5th step with the therapist, actually.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
On a one-on-one. I mean, it sounded like more than like a therapist. If this guy's 12-stepping you, basically, I mean, it sounds like it was more of a sponsorship relationship than a therapist relationship.
It was very close. Of course, I don't have a lot of experience.
Difference being is you was paying him.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, that really is.
That is true.
And that was his livelihood. He does this for a living. And I'm certainly not trying to discount. That's not my point, is not to do that. Mm-hmm. It's just actually, that just came to me as I'm sitting here thinking about it. That does change the definition.
Yes.
But he was feeding you 12-step
and you can tell the difference, too. If somebody's doing something because they're paid or they're doing something because, I mean, that was just a coincidence that he's getting paid for doing what he's doing. We were talking to each other on a different level. I can't really fault
that, I mean, when you got something that's valuable, I mean, if we got these certain things to do, so not unlike this, I wouldn't really, I am not opposed. As a matter of fact, I hope this turns into being like a paying gig someday.
Of course. Yeah.
It does. There is a little bit of funny energy around being paid for what I feel like is 12-step work, so it's, But I don't want to go down that path on right now. Well, I'll make that one of the other podcasts where I'll muse about stuff or whatever. Yeah. So, because I'm interested in hearing a little about that, and then there was also something about a trip to someplace that had some interesting karma around it or whatever. And
Yosemite, yeah. When we did do our 5th step, when I did do my 5th step with Mark, we went down to the what's it called up Yosemite? Yeah,
the Abbey.
The Abbey, yeah. We went down there and we walked for a couple of hours, 2 or 3 hours, and I don't know how many miles we did. And what's funny is we went where we weren't supposed to go because where you're supposed to walk or whatever is across the road. We went behind that place and we didn't really know it, but we were out walking in somebody's field way back around through this place. But it was secluded and we really had a great time. It was a great experience. But during that, or just after the 5th step, after I'd finished, I was going to go up and do the 6th step up at that statue up on the hill.
The cross.
Yes. And at the time we were still down there, like close to the gift shop area.
Yep.
And it's like, all right, well, let's head on up to the cross. Okay. So we started going and all of a sudden it just started raining. It started sprinkling. because we'd been talking about how it had been calling for rain. We was like, well, let's see what happens. Could or could not. But anyway, the whole time we were out walking and everything, the weather was fine. Nice little breeze. It wasn't too bad. And then after the 5th step, we started walking up the hill, or started walking towards the hill. And before we got to that hill, all of a sudden it started raining. It was just a nice little shower. It wasn't too bad. We was like, whatever. Let's just keep going. But we walked up, and just as we got up to the top of the hill, it stopped. And we even remarked about it. It was like, that was almost like a shower to get all that 4th step and 5th step nastiness off of you.
Yeah.
It just cleaned off your inventory, and you just you got it spoken loud, and now you're clean. It's like we got baptized or something, man. It was fantastic. It felt great. It really did.
Cool.
Got up there at the cross to do the praying. Boom, sun pops out. It's beautiful. It's like,
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
A lot of weird stuff happens on that hill wrapped around recovery.
Yeah.
A number of people. I bet I could do a podcast with people lining up telling one story after another of interesting things. And I think the wind thing, I think I've told on the podcast before about the wind stopped blowing whenever. It was just really like a wicked, because we go up there every Christmas, every December, and have a little meeting up there, and then go up and do some year-end prayer work and stuff. And that's that might be an idea to have like a Gethsemane miracle podcast.
Absolutely.
To have everybody come tell their story, or hell, maybe even up there, maybe even there.
It's a great idea.
That is really, really cool. So that's you did 5, 6, and 7.
Yes.
There one day.
Yes.
So had you done the steps with this other gentleman and Mark? Did you do an overlap?
Just up to 5th. Up to the 5th with that, and then really what had happened was I was just I did it with the therapist, and then started with Mark, and then through hearing about the book, the TSSR book, I bought the book, and I was like, I was just going to read it and go through it, but then I was like, I need to go ahead and go back through this and start through this again. So I started going through, and I did the steps again.
Out of the book, out of the TSSR
exactly book. Through the TSSR book, exactly as it showed, all the way up to the 4th and 5th. That's when I handed Mark the book for him to read the chapter and go through that and do the
part about
step.
Receiving a 5th step.
Yes, yeah, and then so the rest has been pretty much the book. So I guess I've got 3 part of the information was by my therapist, and a lot by Mark, and then the rest is all filled in by the book.
By TSSR.
Yes.
Pretty cool. It's an interesting journey to get it. Well, I know you sure glow when you see that happening. So then you decided at some point to actually start a TSSR meeting locally.
Yes. And that comes from the therapist. He called me. And like I said, we still keep up. We keep in touch.
Yep.
And he contacted me, and he wanted me to come to a meeting he was having. And I didn't know what it was about. I was like, sure, I'll be there. And I sat down and talked with him, and he was trying to brainstorm about things that he could do for community support there in Hodgenville. So we talked about it, and the first thing that came to mind is I had my backpack with me with all my books and stuff, so I pulled out this TSSR book, because that thing was just brilliant. I mean, it's always on my mind, but I said, look, check this out. So I had him look at the book, and I told him, a bunch about it, and I was like, we could do this. It sounds like what you're talking about exactly. It sounds like you just asked me to come here to tell you about this. And he was like, okay. So he listened to me, and that's I just rode with it, basically. I said, I'll do it. He's like, so you going to take care of it? I said, yes, sir. So I did, and I am doing, and it's completely tiny right now. It's sometimes it's just
starts small.
Sometimes it's just me and my wife in there. It's at the public library down there. And we haven't missed a day though. Saturdays 10 to 11:30.
Everybody local can look, and there's one place out. If you're on Facebook, you can go there. And you can find TSSR, 12 Step Spiritual Recovery on Facebook. You can see the events. You can find out information that way. You can go on the contact me page on spiritualunderground.org, and I will help you find that. So If you're down that neck of the woods and looking for these 12-step tools, is what Marshall's talking about. It's changed his life and rest, and the guy on the other side of the table too, and Mark, and we're going to change another guy's life here in just a minute. So yeah, these tools, you're interested in that. That's a small commercial for the Hodgenville TSSR meeting.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you. Appreciate that.
It's really big stuff, man. I mean, because can you ever imagine that you would like to do that?
No.
I mean, those are miracles, and I continue to encourage people, like start a list. Start a list, man, because in a little while you're going to look back and you're going to see this miracle list and go, wow, man, I started a meeting. I did this, and so I'll tell you, it's a miracle that you found them damn crystals in your yard, man.
Yeah, they found me.
Yeah, so one day I'm sitting there and we're on this group thing. We have this group chat, and I was actually talking to a guy earlier today, a guy that, matter of fact, I turned 50 Saturday, and he's a month younger than me. My parents and his parents were best friends growing up when they were pre us being born. And they had these two little boys that were within a month of one another. And as a matter of fact, my middle name is this family's last name. That's how close it is. My middle name is Elliot, and that is these people's last name. And so we chat. It seems like Sunday mornings. I don't know why. It seems like I'm out here in the wood shop on Sunday mornings, and he will message me on Facebook, and we'll just have a text dialogue through Facebook. But we was talking about that and about this connection we have and how we do this thing where we're keeping a higher level connection than what I've seen before. Through the group and stuff. So you put on these here to find that, hey, I found these two crystals in the backyard, and I'm a big crystal dude, and I always have them out, and some people can kind of poo-poo it or not, but I like them, and I don't really give a shit if you don't. I do. And so I keep them around. I have a whole bunch of them. They're in my bedroom. Usually every place I go, I have some crystals. And you kind of were sniffing that out. I'm not exactly sure how that all came together, but you'd posted that you'd found these two crystals in your backyard. And of course, my radar goes shooting off. Bing, ding, ding. I'm like, what? I'm going to these shops. I'm doing this stuff. You mean you found a crystal? And he's got a picture of him, and I'm like, how in the world? But sometimes my witty nature come through, and it did on that time, and I was like, yeah, you didn't find those crystals. You saw did. The crystals found you, man. And so now you found more, right? And then you brought me one today that's from the yard too as a gift on the thing.
Yes I did.
Yes. That's a miracle, man.
And this started from I guess the crystal that you gave Shane, because I kept seeing him twirling that thing in a meeting. I was like, what's he got? He's
got a fluorite sphere that I gave him for his fifth step through Christopher, through the author of that book. I have given people, and I did it Friday night. I did a fifth step with Brandon Friday night down at the cabin, and every single time I do a fifth step with a guy, I buy them a crystal to commemorate that event. And
I'm gonna have to do a fifth step with you just so I can get another crystal.
And we didn't do that. So that's how Shane got his, was because he frankly coveted my fluorite crystal, and it glows in the dark. And I'd taken it to a retreat, and he saw it down there, and I could just see him, every time he looked at him, he had drool going down the corner of his lips and stuff while he looked at that crystal, So when that fifth step come around, I gave it to Christopher ahead of time and said, hey man, give this to him. So you saw that.
Yes, I saw that, and I started wondering what that was and what's going on with it, and then I started asking you and him questions, and then I started looking into it a little bit, just a little bit. I think I may have bought one online or something like that, but then also just through the program, learning about meditation and stuff. So one time I was coming back from a spiritual underground meeting, and I was feeling extremely nervous. And this is back when I still had I was coming off of the Xanax and those medications, and I was like, I could, and I still could take one if I had to or whatever to get me through or whatever. I mean, per the doctor's instructions, but I did not want to. I did not want to do that. So I went home and I sat down in my kitchen floor and I meditated. And my dog doesn't like to eat alone. He hates to dine alone, so I have to sit in the kitchen floor with him while he eats for some reason. He's ate up, but anyway, so I'm sitting in there in the kitchen floor while my dog's eating his dinner, and I'm meditating, and I was very anxious. I was uptight, and I meditated for about 5 minutes is all. And all of a sudden it was like a big deep breath without taking any breath. I mean, I'm sure I did breathe, but the anxiety went away and I calmed myself down through that meditation. And I was like, whoa, that was my first real experience with using that tool as a tool and seeing it work. So I dug into that and I saw, I just started looking online and I saw crystals and meditation bowls and singing bowls. So I ordered one off Amazon that night, a singing bowl. And then I saw how people meditate with crystals. So then I was like, oh, okay. And then so I was, all right, well, I'm going to load up on this so I can have this tool whenever I can. So, so I used the crystals for meditation as well. And
you emptied your 401k account on eBay buying crystals.
I've put myself on a buying freeze right now, but I have spent a lot more than I would have ever thought in a million years. But they're excellent for just staying mindful of whatever it is you're trying to work on.
Yeah.
You know, each one, you can look them up and they're supposed to help you with different things. Now, be they do or be they don't, that's not me to say. Whatever helps you, helps you. If
there's a placebo effect going on with them, then, I will accept that.
Whatever helps you, helps you. You know, and
it's not like it's hurting me and they're pretty. And
exactly.
They're cool. And I really do think there's something about it personally.
Yeah.
I do. I believe, the fact of the matter is everything vibrates at some frequency, and those do, and that can actually be metered.
Exactly. Yes.
It can actually be measured.
Yes.
With a device. So, you can do that. So that's kind of cool. I like it. I giggled. I like watching people get better, and when I see certain things happen, especially when it aligns with the path of what happened with me, because it was the same thing. I was around people who started having these crystals. My initial reaction to them was, it was to poo-poo it, most like everything else that I see. That I'd say that Bob Earl thing. If you bring me something that's working for you, and you say, "Hey, how about some of this?" I will instantly reject it, just out of hand, man. And and I've said this before too. And that don't mean if you bring me a set of a platter of cookies you just baked out of the oven a minute ago and say, "Hey, Dan, you want a cookie?" My instant thing is to say, "No, thank you. I'm okay." I want the whole tray of cookies actually, but I can't tell you that. And so crystals is one of the things like that. But then it started to being something that, for whatever reason, started landing with me, and recovery gave me an open mind to start looking into other things like that. Same thing with the meditation. When guys were talking about meditation early on in my recovery, this is 2011, long time before my sobriety date. And, I just want to know how to stay sober tomorrow, to hell with your meditation bullshit. I just want to, how do I don't drink tomorrow? This night is almost over and I made it. What do I got to do tomorrow? But like you said, that meditation tool it's real. And so that'd be something else I'd write down on it, man. That's those little stories will get away from you. And that's the problem. And maybe my miracle thing might be a little bit too strong sometimes. Maybe. But the fact of the matter is, it's almost like a journaling thing of coming back. And if you will, these tools will be valuable to you helping somebody else later on this miracle list. That's where my miracle list really pays off more than any place else, is when I'm helping somebody else. Because now I got all this list of stuff that otherwise I would have forgotten some of this stuff, or it would slip my mind. And now I have a comprehensive list to talk about.
I don't stay closed-minded about anything anymore. That is my favorite quote. Is that Herbert Spencer? The only way a true way to stay in ignorance, complete ignorance, is contempt prior to investigation. I love that quote. That hits me, right between the eyes, and it has changed me. So, I don't shut the door on anything anymore. Not.
I see that. That's something that inspires me to watch you. I remember people saying the same kind of things about me when I was new, and so now I get to be the guy who's a little bit down the pike, man, looking and going, and I mean it with all my heart. It's inspiring, it's cool, it helps me stay sober. It gives me examples of dudes that I can go, look at that guy, and so I can say, for instance, just to call a dude out, Nick, look at this dude, you can have that too, man, because it's obvious, it's not a, that's how we that's how we do this attraction, not promotion thing, is by doing what you're doing.
My son, speaking of the miracles, my son he'll be 5 in October, and He's on the autism spectrum. And one of the things that my wife said was, after I'd quit drinking, or for a while, she was like, he's doing better. And I can't even tell you, because, I paid lots of attention to him. I've loved him, of course, but you can't pay attention when you're messed up.
Yep. You just don't have the ability.
So she has seen a noticeable difference in how he is. And
it's a ripple effect of recovery. Everybody in your periphery, in your perimeter, will actually will heal because you did.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. For all that time that I was thinking that I wasn't hurting anybody, even before I had a family, I thought, well, I ain't hurting nobody but myself. But you've got a key answer for that. Oh, yeah, tell me about your mom.
Yeah, right.
And even then, what about, my nieces, my nephews, the people who are supposed to be looking up to me, or I should be looking up to me. I need to give them something to look up to.
Amen.
So that's something I had to say since you were talking about miracles.
Yeah, because that's what I'm at, and I feel I don't want to say that, but I feel that we're moving towards the end of this content. I kind of got a feel for things, but that's one. So, like you obviously talked about, sometimes I have to prod those miracle things out of people and make sure that we talk about them, because like I said, I always, when we do that thing about recovery, about what it was like, what happened, and what's like now, some of what I want to talk about what it's like now is the miracles in people's life and the things that happen, the palpable things that are different in people's lives that are that make this payoff, because we don't, frankly, as humans, we don't do anything without a payoff. There's got to be a payoff. There has to be. And in this recovery world, the payoff is these miracles and these things of sitting here with you and doing a podcast and being a father and being a son and getting to do the kind of things we get to do and be able to support other people, and you're a minute, if not less, away from sponsoring other guys and helping them get this thing too, and the whole momentum of our lives shifts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that story needs to be on these, because what they say, the quintessential complaint in a 12-step recovery meeting is that a guy spends 50 minutes getting drunk and 10 minutes getting well, right, getting sober, we have to do that identification thing, and that we need to know that too,
right?
Because the guy that's been through that, that's how he knows. That's where he relates and goes, hey man, that guy got better too, so I did that. That I did that too, kind of thing. Me too, kind of thing. But so, any other miracles? Anything else you want to say?
Yeah,
I certainly do not mean at any level that this is a wrap up.
I know. Yeah, it's another one point, or a major point I wanted to get through, is that once you get sober, that's not it. It's not the it's what what's next on your list. This isn't all. I want to better myself in many ways. As best I can. I've been watching what I eat. I took a food challenge that I complained about it quite a bit. But, I feel better. I've got more energy. And, it's another level of this, of being fit, being spiritually fit. I got so many levels to go. It's never going to be done.
That's a great thing.
Yeah.
I'm glad there's not a finish line.
Right. No kidding.
I don't want to bust through the tape.
But I've lost, on that thing, I lost like 15 pounds. So, and that's in the 28 days. But I've been running. 2 or 3 miles on a treadmill and just running. Then you feel that way you get from the exercise, that stress goes away. You just feel differently. And anyway, what I'm leading up to something a little bit is I've been smoking since I was 16, and I switched to the douche flute in 2012.
The vape pipes, the electronic, the e-cigarettes, for the uninformed.
Yeah. So, and I've been, kicking around, getting rid of that, and I've said it out loud. I wanted to put it on in concrete evidence right here that I'm going to quit whenever this gets released. I'll be done, and I'm going to quit nicotine, and that'll be my next thing.
Next phase of your development.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So and like that, the Steel Bob Earl stuff, man. We continue to do the things that improve the quality of our lives in recovery.
Yeah.
And those things, because it's a snowball effect, just like you said. It's one thing you go, man, that felt good to do that. I'm eating a little better. I feel a little better. Hey, so I start actually, it sounds kind of funny, but I start getting addicted to feeling better.
Yeah.
Right. So I start doing things that makes me feel better, and I can actually turn around that energy that used to have me doing this and completely point that compass needle in a different direction towards positive things into my life and put that energy that direction. And it's cool. It's inspiring.
Another level of freedom too.
Yeah, man.
I don't need to be chained to anything.
Yeah. Have you seen my little video where I'm doing on the when I got the pacifier?
Yes, I did. Yeah. Yep. You don't put out too much stuff that I miss.
But you've already been through my doggone hunt files on
no,
YouTube?
No, I haven't. No, I haven't went into the trove. I mean, I'm just on the the stuff
Quentin or somebody posted that the other day, or put that up on the
I'm gonna have to go back
on the group the other day.
I'm going to have to go back because I'm going to need that assistance in the nicotine quit.
I have a whole world of people who quit nicotine. And it's interesting that because I see what I look at, and this is somewhat. And I almost released it the other day, but I decided not to. We wrote a fictional narrative, some people did. I didn't write any of it, but I have it all. And it gets really pretty wild, and it's almost cartoonish in it. It's like a post-apocalyptic nicotine quitting world, and there's cars turned over in the front yards that we, use to keep them getting shot at, and a whole bunch of stuff. And the guy, Jim, who's doing the PQAs, he wrote a good piece of it, kind of set the stage for it. But I actually read the terms and conditions of Anchor, and I was like, yeah, I probably shouldn't release that because it has some very shocking and I actually deleted it off of the podcast. It was sitting in the podcast library, not released. And I was just kind of saving it for if I need to or just felt to. And then something happened the other day and I read it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. But in the same vein, because my mind will work kind of goofy, and I'm looking, so I got all these people getting sober, and I got this tribe of people who are not using alcohol and what normally we would call drugs. They're not using those anymore, but they're hell on wheels on the nicotine. And what I wanted to say, I stopped myself from saying these people in that tribe are not using mind-altering drugs, but I've since changed my mind because when I came off of nicotine, I realized how mind-altering it actually is. I didn't know that because I'm using it all day long. Oh, then I got this whole other tribe of people who are not using nicotine, but they're drinking. Now, whether, like you'd said earlier about your dad, whether if they're alcoholics or not, I don't know. That's not for me to determine. But it goes back to what we talked about a little earlier in the podcast about our own little chemical that we are okay with, right?
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with alcohol. I don't have I'm not going to jail over nicotine. And it's just a little, it's a little counterintuitive to start placing those differences, just like you said, man. I quit everything except for smoking dope.
Yeah.
Had this little issue. I didn't do any, but I had this little issue with cocaine. And so it's interesting that our whole society does that with nicotine and sets that over there that one is okay, right? It's okay to use that, and it really, I could give a shit what you do. Really, stick a needle in your arm. I don't want you to do that, but I'm not going to sit here and stand here and say that's, we do what we do. And if we want to smoke and we want to dip and we want to do that stuff, we'll do it. But I'm glad that you're looking to come off of that. And I think that's a natural progression. I've seen it before, and it's hard.
Oh, no.
And I have people that can help you. And I actually, like I said, Jim honestly is one of probably the most knowledgeable people I know about dealing with the effects of quitting nicotine.
Yeah.
And what days you're doing stuff. And I'm going to keep on putting out those PQAs and that public quit announcement stuff. And I'm going to start beating that drum that not only do we need to get sober from these other so-called air quote drugs, that's one too.
Yeah, I agree.
Because we do it, and you watch guys. I mean, you get you in a stressful situation. I bet you are sucking on that flute like it's playing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
I was trying to think of what you play on a flute, but
orchestral music. I don't know. Or Peter Piper. I don't know.
Yeah, but they run down through there playing some of that I can't remember. I just drew a complete blank, and I got a particular sensitivity that I don't want to step on because I've got some I've been called to task for some things I've put out in the world the last few days. I'm trying to be a little more sensitive to that. So anyway, yeah. So that stressful stuff will hit you, and you're smoking cigarettes left and right. You see dudes at work, man, and then they're having a thing. I gotta go have a cigarette. I'm sitting with a guy doing a fist step, and he's just dipping like mad. And you're going, man, that's like, I'm looking and you're just pouring drug in you. And again, you're probably not going to go to jail for that, but I have to look at that for me, and that's what happened, and that's exactly what happened. I've spoke about that as I was sitting here working with a guy on a 12-step talking about improving the quality of their life and recovery while I'm spitting in a cup. Yeah. And I'm going, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Just completely. It held me up. It actually, he's like, thought, what happened to Dan just a second ago? He just checked out on me, and I did check out on him because I'm sitting there thinking, you are a hypocrite. You're sitting here doing this nasty crap and telling this dude about improving the quality of his life through dropping, as I think I was talking about, changing behaviors.
Yeah.
But anyway, we have our little thing and bumped into that, and so I'm glad you're doing that. And I actually have told our nicotine quitting guys that we got a new guy coming here soon.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course they all say, why not today? I said, I really do think he means it, and I'm going to take his honor that, and I understand he's like got a milestone. He's crossing over this milestone, mile marker, and won't really want to shift gears until a certain I don't even know what it was, but when a certain thing happened, when you pass that correct mile marker, which is coming up very soon, you'll add on to the next thing that you're going to hammer away at.
Yeah, I don't have any real answer for exactly why, but I'm sure everybody needs that right time or whatever. The right time, I'm sure, is right now, for a lot of things, but for whatever reason, I've put it in my head that this is going to happen. But this is the way it's going to happen, so that's the way it is. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, well, I'm here to help on that account, too, man.
I appreciate that. I'll need it. And again, thanks for
you got anything else?
Come in. I'm sure I do, but I'll save it for the next time.
Yeah. Well, cool. You have a concluding thought you want to share as we close this up?
That's kind of what I was, just making sure that I got things out there. I've said most of the things that I wanted to get off of my head, I believe. I
think it's important we get this 1 year. I think that's just too cool that you're this, you're this on fire, and this is still early.
One of the things that led me looking this way looking for more was I was trying to tell people that I understand this is that pink cloud, but I want to stay here. I want to know how, and the guy was like, yeah, shit, good. Don't do that. You ain't going to have to get ready for this, get ready for that. I was like, okay, I'll get ready for that, but I still want to stay here. Yeah. I want to keep this going. Actually, I want more. I want it to get even better. I got chills the other day when I did this. I want to get more of those. I want to keep that going. So they were like, yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't know. I don't know how to do it. Okay, well, if you don't know how to do it, I don't need to be talking to you. I need to talk to somebody that knows how to do it.
Yeah. My experience is I do that by enlarging my spiritual life.
Yeah.
That's the bigger one that I continue to get, whether that's playing with crystals, learning Reiki, doing, because all that, yoga, becoming a yoga instructor was enlarging my spiritual life. So when you start looking at definitions of what stuff means like that, there's it's infinite to what you can do when you look at that category.
To me, I think the answer is more. Just, hey, you smell more? Hey, there is more. Just go out there and look. Go do it.
Yep.
Take a look at it. Take a look at it. Figure out which one.
A whole big tribe of dudes that are doing cool shit.
Yeah.
And we'll do some of what they're doing.
Yeah. Try it out.
30 to 50 guys doing multiple different things, man. You watch them and go, yeah, I think I want to do that. I have so many things up on the shelf right now to do. And I'm just waiting to get next one down. The next thing I'm getting down is a Mankind project. I'm going to go to that.
Find somebody
next month.
Get excited.
Next month, I'm going to one of my immersion weekends, a 3-day weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I'm going to go to the new, I don't know what you're supposed to say, and there's some things, but I'm just going to say it anyway. The new warrior training, and go see what that's about, because there's people in my life that have tools that interest me, and I want those tools. And I know that's where they got them.
There you go. Yeah. That's cool. I'm interested.
Yeah. I get a little passionate at times, and I want to stay that way.
Yes, stay that way.
Yeah. Well, man, I'm really glad you came in. I'm glad everybody did here today, man. And like I said, you're a light in my life and a blessing. I just, it happens. And I don't want to, I never single anybody out, and I certainly don't mean to do that. But people come into my life, man, and just add to my life, add to they add to the quality of my life in recovery, and you're one of them. So
thank you, Dan. I appreciate it.
Cool, man. Well, we will end this one, and we were going to turn it off and save and start another one in just a minute. Probably take a little bit of a break. And so let's get some couple things out of the way again. 12-Step Spiritual Recovery by James Christopher Cone. That is where these tools reside. It is a master's level book on this stuff, and you can do that. You can get that book and do that work and improve the quality of your life in whatever form that means to you. spiritualunderground.org. That's where you can get show notes and the website that supports this podcast. Music is by Darren Frank. DTMWW.net. Woodworking and handyman stuff. I will continue to close in the same manner most times. I'm having a blast doing this whole recovery thing. If you're not having fun, it's your own damn fault. And thank y'all for allowing me to participate in my recovery in this manner today. Peace out.
Greetings, folks. This is the Colonel. You may remember me from episode 126 about nicotine recovery. Well, I'm here with this week's public quit announcement for those of you wishing to add nicotine to your recovery roster. This PQA is brought to you by DTM Woodworking and the Colonel's Legal Defense Fund. Today's subject is a controversial topic in the world of nicotine recovery: to use or not to use quit aids or even tobacco substitutes. The difference being quit aids include nicotine patches, gum, or prescription meds to ease you off of nicotine, while substitutions are like choosing to use fake tobacco products that do not have nicotine. There are several types of fake dips out there, and maybe even a few fake cigs, who knows. The topic for me boils down to this: what are you trying to accomplish? For me and many others, maintaining any level of nicotine in the system is not a form of recovery. You're simply prolonging the addiction with a higher chance of relapsing or caving. I recommend cold turkey for one reason: it gets you past the worst of it up front, then you begin your actual recovery. Substitutes, or those non-nicotine products, represent a different part of the addiction, and that is the oral fixation that is as much a part of your problem as the chemical itself. Some dippers have found non-nicotine fake dips quite beneficial, whereas I elected to cut all ties with the old habit and found that my Hall's cough drop satisfied the oral fixation, but not so close to the habit that I felt in danger of caving. The problem with any substitute is this: now I have a very persistent cough drop habit that I cannot seem to shake, and to be honest, I'm afraid to even try. So find what works best for you in this arena. Well, my friends, this has been your PQA for the week. Take it from Dan and I, it all gets better, and you only need to worry about staying quit today, one day at a time. Quit on and carry on, my friends. Colonel No Cope out.
I spent a long time searching, years with my heart hurting. One thing's for certain, I don't know it all. I've been blessed by a new day, learning to live in a good way. I've got something to say, I've heard the call. In my heart I know I've got something new to guide me. I found the answer hidden way down deep inside me. I was half a man, but now I'm fully whole. Life turned around and I suddenly found I got a new doubtful in the beginning. At times my head was spinning. A small chance at winning was but a roll of the dice. Now the hard work has ended. All my fences are mended. My spirit transcended with the asking price. In my heart I knew I got something new to guide me. I found the answer hidden way down deep inside me. I was half a man, but now I'm fully whole. And I turned around and I suddenly found I got a new kind of soul. Life turned around and I suddenly found I got a new kind of